Hello, everyone. It is Friday. It is a day that we're back. We haven't been doing this for a while, but it's another LinkedIn Live with experienced investigators. And I am thrilled to have you here. I'm Jeannie Walters, the CEO and founder, and I've got Paige Flanagan from our team here as well. Hi, Paige.
Hi, so happy to be here and going through this great topic and talking about all these exciting things we have coming.
We've got some fun announcements. So if you are joining us, please feel free to let us know in the comments. Where are you joining us from? What's the weather like there? That's always fascinating to me for some reason because it can vary wildly this time of year too. And what are you looking to learn here? We want to hear from you. So let us know. Today, we are going to be diving into 4 questions every customer experience leader should ask before 2026. This is part of a series of events that we have between now and early November that is positioned to help you lead in 2026. We really want you to be prepared. And you know what? We're in a world where you can prepare a lot for a lot of uncertainty, and uncertainty still happens. But the more we prepare, the better off we'll be. So that's really the goal that we have today. So, Paige, first of all, before we jump in, what are your plans coming up between now and 2026?
Oh, let's see. Well, I was just last night in a baking frenzy because I'm about to have a Twilight watch party with my best friend and my nephew in Oklahoma. So if there is any watch parties that you guys have participated in, drop those in because that's also fascinating.
That is amazing. And you are an exceptional baker, I know. And sometimes you send us pictures that just make me hungry. So
yes, I really love making breads, and I've been dabbling more in cakes lately. So
okay.
my husband is starting to grumble that he's getting fat. So put your addresses and I'll send you the cake.
Be careful. You're going to have a side gig where, yeah, that's, I know that's always fun to bake. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, we're going to have cupcakes for days.
I truly don't know how to bake for small. Like we're just 2, but I always bake for an army. So.
I love it. I love it. Well, it looks like we've got some folks joining us from Massachusetts. A little fall chill in the air. That's kind of what it's like in Chicago, although we're going to be in the 70s again today. So I'm pretty excited.
We're still in the 90s here in Kansas
Oh my
City.
gosh.
Yes, we've been hitting pretty much like high 80s, low 90s.
Wow.
I'm over it.
Wow. Wow. All right. We also have some folks joining us from Africa, Nairobi, Kenya. Excellent. Yeah. Happy to have you all here. So we're going to jump in because we have a lot to cover today, not just about this topic, but also we have some fun and exciting announcements that we hope you'll be excited about too. So let's go ahead and jump in. First of all, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Jeannie Walters. I am founder and CEO of Experienced Investigators. I've been in the customer experience world for 20 years now. And, our mission at Experienced Investigators from day one has been to create fewer ruined days for customers. And so you being here helps us live that mission because that mission is all about empowering leaders like you. We want to help leaders who have way too much to do, way too many expectations, prioritize the right actions to get the results so that your customers not only love you, but your leaders love you too because you're getting those business outcomes. And, I've been talking about this for a while. But there's something that we haven't done. We've done webinars, we've done LinkedIn Lives. I have a podcast, of course, Experience Action. I've been a TEDx speaker, speaking, consulting, teaching. We have our membership. But people have been asking me about something for a long, long time. And finally, I can announce it's happening.
Ta-da! Jeannie's got a book. We're so excited.
Thank you. Yes, this is the book. It's called Experience is Everything. And really what we are doing in this book is laying out how to approach customer experience with that mindset, strategy, and the daily discipline approach. So this is good for not just customer experience leaders, but really for business leaders, for frontline workers. It's really kind of taking our philosophy and putting it into book form. The good news is it's available for pre-order today. The bad news is you have to wait until April to actually receive it.
Yeah.
But if you go to any of the booksellers out there, you can find it there. If you want to jump to our book page and find some buttons to click there, that is also available through that QR code. The exciting thing is we do have a long runway to the book, so we're going to be doing all sorts of fun things around this book. We are going to be really looking to offer different ways that you can interact with this book so that you will get those results. You can take action, not just read. And if you pre-order, we have some fun things. If you are interested in bulk ordering, those offers will be up soon for books of 5 or more. And then the other thing is, as we roll this out, and I'm going around doing keynote speaking as I do and training, the book will be incorporated there too. So we hope you'll pay attention. If you really want to keep up with all of this, the best way to do that is our newsletter, which is the weekly win. And I think Paige is going to drop in the link there. Thank you. I'm seeing some of the congrats and other things. We've got folks from, look, Amsterdam, Dubai, Pennsylvania, India, Orlando, Columbus, excellent, Northwest Ireland. Love that. Calgary. Oh my goodness. And there's Audrey from Columbus. Hi, Audrey. And we are just thrilled that you're here with us today, that you're part of this journey with us, because this book was also built on the content that I've developed from sitting with leaders like you, working with leaders every day, seeing the real world challenges that you have to get the buy-in you need and everything else. So we'll talk about that a little bit later, but for now, we just wanted all of you to be in the know. This is the first public announcement we've made, so we're glad that you're here.
Yes,
all right.
We're so excited.
And then this event is actually part of a series of events that we've put together for you to really help you prepare for 2026. The next 2 events of our CXI Navigator series, the next one is actually a membership event in our CXI membership hub. And that is a live Q&A with me about from data to decisions. So how do we go from collecting data to making those decisions that make an impact? That will be within CXI membership. So if you are not a member, hang on, we might have something for you. And then the next one is a webinar for everybody. This webinar is not here on LinkedIn. It's actually a separate webinar. So go ahead and register for that. You'll get all the information. That is from assessment to action about building your CX roadmap. The entire idea behind this series was driven from questions and conversations that I was having with leaders like you, saying, I'm getting all this pressure. I need to put together a plan, but nobody's giving me enough direction. There is no playbook for this. We are going to help you build that. So we hope you'll join us, and we hope you'll tell all your friends about these things, all your CX and business leader friends. Now, if you are interested in joining us for that membership event next week, we have something, don't we, Paige?
We sure do. And I'm super excited about it because there's so many conversations that I've had with people interested in learning more about Jeannie's content and getting one-on-one coaching with Jeannie and just all of tapping into the Jeannie brain. And so if you want to do that, claim your 7-day free trial. I'm right now putting it in our chat, the CXI test drive, and you can come in and check out our hub, check out our content, check out what it's like to be a member of CXI membership. You'll see my smiling face a lot because I will be there to help you. I'll be there to answer any questions, help you on your learning path. I'm here for you. So if you need anything, get in there, check that out. Make sure if you do, you register for the data to decisions Q&A, because those are a bit different than what you would get here. It's a bit of a more deep dive and a bit more hands-on because it's a smaller membership, and we are excited to learn about you and help you on your CX journey. So
that's right.
And very excited.
Within membership, we have a lot of curriculum already, and you can mix and match. You can figure out what works for you. And then the best part is we keep adding to it. So all of our members get not only what's already there, but everything that gets updated and added and all of the fun stuff. So we really hope you'll join us. If you have any questions, please reach out to Paige. But yeah, we've got a lot going on for fourth quarter.
We sure do.
So let's dive into these questions so we can help you with your fourth quarter and getting ready for first quarter. So Paige, we'll see you at the end. As as always, people can drop in Q&A. You'll keep us posted on that as well. So if you have questions, please drop them in and we will try to get to those at the end as well. So 4 questions every customer experience leader should ask before 2026. Okay, here's why I think this is so important. It is important because over and over and over and over again, what I see is customer experience leaders are asked to define goals and they define metrics instead of goals. What do I mean by that? I mean that they define things like, well, we want to improve net promoter score, or we want to get more survey adoption. And those are important, but those are not outcomes. Those are not goals. So what we need to do is take a step back and think about what are the real goals that we have? What did we do this year that went well, or maybe that we learned from? And then how can we define things that are both realistic and capture the imagination of our leaders as well? I love this quote. In the absence of clearly defined goals, we become strangely loyal to performing daily trivia until ultimately we become enslaved by it. Now, I relate to this, and I bet some of you do too. It is so easy to fall into performing daily trivia, isn't it? Especially when we have all these points of input in customer experience. We have customer feedback coming in all the time. We have leaders who hear from customers, and suddenly that becomes the 5-alarm fire. We hear from our competitors. We start seeing things that make us go, we need to focus on that. We hear all these crazy headlines today about what's happening with business and the economy and geopolitical things that could impact our customer experience. All of that is entering our kind of ecosystem every day. And it's up to us as the CX leaders to define the goals in a way that we know that every day we show up, we know that the daily trivia that we're working on is actually progress. It's actually moving us towards those goals. 83% of 200 CX executives said unimproved customer experience puts their revenue and market share at risk. This is from 2020. However, I still believe this is true. We see a lot of people who understand in theory that, yes, if we're not good at customer experience, bad things will happen, but they haven't yet articulated what does success look like and how do we know if we're getting there? And then the other thing I like about this, and the reason that we address this pretty much every 4th quarter, is because there are natural cycles in what we do. Within the natural cycles of any business, there are times that offer a chance to review, reflect, and recharge. And we can do this at any time, of course. I do this, excuse me. I try to do a weekly review, a monthly review, and a quarterly review personally. Am I perfect at that? No, I am not, friends. However, the act of putting it on the calendar and going through it as much as we can really helps, because then you can say, oh, you know what? I said this was a goal, but I didn't do anything about it for a week, for a month. What is that saying? Is it really a goal? Do I need to revisit this? Is the outcome realistic? There are all sorts of things that happen where we have to sometimes zig and zag. We have to figure out what is it we really want to do. So 4th quarter is just a great time to really look back and reflect on, did we set the right goals this year? Did we achieve those? Why or why not? And what do we want to do next year to get even better at this? What is the strategy that we're going to apply to achieve those goals? What are the tactics that either we need to take on, we need to delegate, we need to plan for, we need to automate? Figuring that out in that time of reflection, it takes away some of the frenetic pace that all of you live in day to day. I know that there is so much coming at you every day. I really encourage you, if you can, take this hour, take another hour, and sit down and really think through these questions. So we're going to go through a pattern of reflect, plan, reflect, plan. Now, we have other resources out there with deeper dives into some of these questions, but today we're just going to talk about the questions. So when we reflect, what I want you to ask yourself about this year, what was the best business outcome we achieved due to our customer experience? Then when we plan, we want to reverse that. What business outcomes would be worth celebrating? When we reflect, we want to ask, did we improve or change the customer's journey for the better? And then we also want to go to plan again. What challenges do we need to overcome, both internally and externally, to achieve more for our customers and our organization? So you can see here, there's a yin and yang to it. So let's start with reflect. The first question: what was the best business outcome we achieved due to our work in customer experience? You have heard me say this again and again. If we can't connect CX work to business results, we have to really ask ourselves why we can't do that. Now, some of you are going to say, yeah, we know that everybody looks at us for getting the NPS metric up, and we know that that should have an impact on revenue, but we don't have insight into that. It's time to ask questions of others in our organization. And sometimes that means going to your finance group. Sometimes that means going to your chief revenue officer and saying, these are the goals that you have. Here's how I'm going to help you. Because NPS is a measurement, it is not an outcome. It does not actually show what is going to happen. So what we want to do is look at what is the business outcome that we feel best about this year. Did you help reduce churn? Did you help improve renewals? Did you help improve word of mouth? Did you help employee retention? This is something that I've seen overlooked. When we have a better customer experience, when we smooth out the rough edges of process internally that actually delivers better things for the customer, that can help with the employee experience dramatically. So look for those connections and ask yourself, did we have an impact here on those business results? And if so, hey, give yourself a pat on the back, number one. We do not spend enough time celebrating our successes. And so really take a minute and recognize what you have done for the organization. You have helped your organization succeed. What that means is that you have helped pay the salaries of your fellow employees. You have helped the customers achieve more through your products and services. You have helped all of these different things. Some of you are in nonprofit, education, healthcare. Those are big stakes, right? So really define what is it we did, not only from a business perspective, but then celebrate what that actually meant. And the more you can get clear on that, you can have really enriching and powerful conversations with your leaders about that too. So I encourage you to really get into the weeds a little bit with this one. Think about those business outcomes. Then we want to flip the script and look ahead. The question I want you to ask is, what business outcome would be worth celebrating? I want you to literally think of yourself 12 months from now. I want you to think about presenting to your executive team, or creating your year-end report, or just being on a LinkedIn Live and celebrating with us. What is it that you would say, oh my gosh, I can't believe we did it? Now, everybody's at a different place in your customer experience journey. When you are rolling out a customer experience program for the first time, if you are scaling your team, if maybe you are an army of one and you are the CX leader and you know there's too much to do and you've got to prioritize, wherever you are on that journey, if you can define this and really get clear on what would that feel like to celebrate? What would it mean? Maybe it does mean, you know what? I feel like my goal has to be adding a team member who can help with this assessment so that we can, that's important, so that we can serve our customers better. We can help our customers achieve more. We can help our customers' business deliver more to their customers. Really get clear on the so that we can, because if we don't, we're talking about tactics. What we want to do is think beyond that and think about, what are we really celebrating here? We're celebrating outcomes. You heard me talk about our mission in the beginning of this LinkedIn Live, which is to create fewer ruined days for customers. If we can do things with our clients where we live that mission, that is worth celebrating. That is worth saying, you know what? We improved this process, which means we didn't ruin our customer's day as much. We actually took away something that was creating service issues. We designed a more proactive experience so that, yes, they stuck around longer. They spent more money with us. They told their friends. But really, at the end of the day, what I care about and what gets me excited is thinking about, you know what? We helped somebody have a better day. That is worth celebrating. So get really clear on what that means to you, but also make sure you can articulate that in the business outcomes. And then we want to step back and reflect again. Did we improve or change the customer's journey for the better? Sometimes these things are hard to measure. Sometimes it's not all about the big splash. Sometimes it is about figuring out, you know what? We made it better because we used to have 40 choices on our website and nobody knew what to do. And now we've narrowed it down to 3, and everybody talks about how clear and concise it is. We are seeing them go through the process faster with fewer service issues. We are doing things to help people feel more welcomed. I've done some work with different nonprofits, and one of the things that comes up there is there's a difference between the member experience or who we're serving and the donor experience and all of that. In B2B, it can be the same thing where we might have a buyer who is a different persona, different group than the person who is the end user of the product. So I encourage you to think about those segments as well and think about how did we improve their customer journey? Because what I found is when you reflect this way, when you actually look at that experience and you start thinking about, wow, we did a great job this year for donors, but what could we do in this next year to really improve the experience for the people we serve? Sometimes it highlights a group that we might be overlooking. So I encourage you to think about the different segments, personas, groups that you serve, and figure out, is there a way that you could focus on that next time? But get clear about what did we do. If you answer this question, you think, I cannot think of anything, or we tried that thing and we couldn't get buy-in and we didn't have the budget and we didn't have the technology, that is valuable too. So make sure that you're also answering this question, why or why not? Why did it happen or why didn't it happen? That will give you lessons, that will give you ideas, that will give you a place to go. So the other thing I like about this question is if you reflect back and you say, hey, we did a great job with improving the mobile app. And we did that in collaboration with our IT team and our mobile development team and our, whoever team. And if you look at that and see that level of collaboration, that is another thing to celebrate. That is another thing to remind everybody, you know what, we did this together and look what we did for the customer. And really just reflect that back within your organization so that others know this is what we mean when we talk about this. We talk about customer experience as a strategy. And then when we take the right steps and prioritize the right efforts, these are the results we get for our business, and look what we did for the customer. Help everybody celebrate that. And then really celebrate that cross-functional collaboration as well, and celebrate the teams and the people who helped make that happen on behalf of your customers. And then we want to plan. We want to look ahead. What challenges do we need to overcome, both internally and externally, to achieve more for our customers and our organization? This is the one that I feel like sometimes my favorite way to do this is literally set a timer for like 3 minutes and just think about what are all the challenges that we have, and just let yourself go. Let yourself whine and complain and kvetch about all the different things that are obstacles in your way. Because once you have that list, you're going to start seeing patterns, and you'll be able to say, you know what, if we could align more with our procurement group, or if we could align more with our technology group, or if I could just get the leadership buy-in that I need on these ideas, that would make a tremendous change. So it's time to really examine what is preventing the great customer experience that you want to deliver, and get real about it and get specific and write your list. Because when we do this, we find not only those challenges that we go, you know what? Yeah, we could overcome this next time. Sometimes we look at it and we go, okay, there's nothing we can do about this, right? We cannot control geopolitical influences right now. We can't do it in most cases. Some of you might, I don't know, but that's not something I have been able to do. So instead of dwelling on those things and thinking, oh, what are we going to do about these things? It allows you to say, okay, we're not going to be able to do that. So what could we do instead? What could we influence instead? If we know that we can't control the price of gas, but we know that we have deliveries coming up, okay, we know we can't control the gas. So what could we control around the customer experience? Is it about fewer surprises for the customer? Is it about better communication? It allows us to think about the challenge and kind of tuck it away and think, okay, that's the reality, and then move on. Because if anyone's gone to a customer experience networking event, you have experienced this, right? Where somebody comes up, "Oh, can you believe this and this and this? Oh, we can't do anything about this." And it becomes this cycle of complaining. And I am an optimist. I admit that, guilty as charged. But at the same time, we have to be optimists in this work. We have to look at the reality of the situation and think about what if? What if we could do something else? What if we could help somebody get through this? What if we could better equip our customers to navigate those uncertainties? There are all sorts of ways to really look at this. And this is just a brief list of questions that we've seen as common challenges when we've conducted these exercises and worked with customers. So, are leaders communicating in ways to help connect the insights gathered from customers into action? I bet many of you see this where you say, look at all the insights, look at everything that we've gathered, and then crickets and nothing ever happens. So you come in the next month and say, look, we've gathered all these insights, and there are crickets again. We have to really make sure that we know a process, we understand how can we drive action. At Experience Investigators, we have a saying that we have a bias towards action, meaning it's very easy to get into analysis paralysis. It's very easy to spend a lot of time looking through data, remarking on it, showing people, saying, oh, isn't this interesting? And not actually doing. We want you to have a bias towards action. Look for ways that you can turn those insights into action. Is there a clearly defined cross-functional team to help you drive the actions forward? We cannot do this alone. This is a team sport. We need others. So if you don't have that cross-functional collaboration, that is a great goal. Start small. You're not going to change the world, but have a goal of, you know what, we could overcome so much if we had cross-functional collaboration with this team. That can be a goal for you for next year, because then you can work on communication, you can work on opportunities, you can work on co-celebrating with them, all those things to help them really feel like it's a win-win for them. Do customers have enough ways to share their feedback with us? Do we close the loop with them? I have heard so many people who tell me that they have a robust feedback program, and they're proud of that. And then they say, yeah, we're not really great at closing the loop. So closing the loop, for those of you who aren't familiar with the term, there are different ways to define inner and outer and all that. We're not going to get into that today. But what I would define closing the loop as is, if I give you information, if I give you a complaint, if I ask for help as a customer and you don't get back to me, that is an open loop. The same thing for internally. So if I'm looking for something for a customer and you are internal and don't get back to me, that's an open loop. Those open loops drive us mad as people. When we have open loops in our own mind, it will drive you crazy because you can't ever let that go. You can't ever think that's solved. It also starts eroding trust, because if I don't get back to you and close that loop, then that's basically saying, you're not that important. I'll get to it when I get to it. So we need to make sure that we have a program to close the loops for both internally and externally. And then, is there transparency inside our organization and to customers regarding the supply chain, delivery options, and more? This is the one that's come up the most in the last few years. We have disruptions. We have disruptions in today's world. Unlike, I would say, like 2019, we just have them now, both in supply chain, in cost structure, in the way that we both receive and distribute goods. We also have disruptions in the labor force. We have disruptions because of generational difference. We have disruptions because we, had a vendor that all of a sudden went out of business. There are all sorts of things that can happen. People leave jobs, and sometimes they bring all that knowledge with them. So if we know that there are disruptions, are we really transparent enough as an organization so that we can best prepare for our organization to keep delivering and keep up with the standards and or communicate with customers about that. If we are transparent with customers, they will pay us back with loyalty. Will they be upset? Sometimes, yes. But sometimes it's better to have an upset customer when you are telling them the truth than to try to keep something from them and have them even more upset later. So, really, transparency, visibility, thinking through all of the ways that we can best prepare for those disruptions. So, when they happen, we are better prepared and our customers are better prepared. And are there basic steps in the customer journey? We all acknowledge are bad for the customer. This is something that I see again and again as well. We will talk about a customer journey. Maybe we're doing some journey mapping, and I'll ask a client, what happens here? And a whole bunch of people within the organization will be like, oh my gosh, that's terrible. I don't know why we do it that way. That is ridiculous. Customers hate it. We hate it. We can't ever do it. And it's like, you don't need data if that's what people are telling you. I know some people don't like this, but anecdotal data like that is still data. So if somebody's telling you this is terrible and everybody agrees this is a terrible thing to do, or this is not living up to who we say we are, this is not living up to our customer experience mission, and we all know that, tackle it. That is one of the basics we have to get right. So if you are looking for ways to really make an impact and you're not sure where to start, that's a great place to start. If there is something that is just not a great way to treat customers, if you know it's a point of friction, a barrier, an obstacle for customers to get through, that is a great goal for next year to say, you know what, we will improve this for our customers, even if you don't know exactly how yet, because there are all sorts of things we can do, even if it means, oh, we've got legacy systems and this and that. Sometimes we can't do a lot, but we can still do something. So that's just inspiration for you. But I really encourage you, set that timer, think about all the challenges, because that will reframe this in a really, really powerful way. So here are the 4 questions. What was the best business outcome we achieved due to our work in customer experience? What happened that you are really proud of that you delivered for your organization? What is the business outcome? Then we have what business outcomes would be worth celebrating. Picture yourself next year celebrating. What is that? Think about if you could just take that deep breath, put your chest out, be proud of it. What would that feel like for you? And what would have the biggest impact? And then you can work backwards from there. How can we get there? Then we want to reflect again. Did we improve or change the customer's journey for the better? What happened? Did we do that? Why or why not? Get deep here. Think about what was it really that we did? And if it had a great impact, are you celebrating that? Are you bringing in those cross-functional teams and helping them celebrate that, recognizing the people who made that happen? And then we want to plan again. What challenges do we need to overcome, both internally and externally, to achieve more for our customers and our organization? And this is the one time a year I'm going to say, this is your license to sit down and just complain and kvetch and whine, right? Like, make that list. Think about all those things that you came home maybe and you talked to your roommate or your spouse, or you called your mom and you said, you won't believe what happened, right? Those are the types of things I want you to think about and get specific about. So we have this resource for you. It's called the Reflection and Planning Questionnaire, and it really walks you through these questions and a few other things. So this is a great thing to use as you go through this. And then, of course, we also have some resources in membership and all sorts of places. So I encourage you, though, to give yourself an hour at least to do this. A little more would be great, but give yourself the gift of that. Because if you continue to just do what you do every day and you get the same results and all those inputs coming at you, they're not going to stop. So we have to carve out that time and really do this for ourselves, because you will get better outcomes if you plan this way, if you really think through what is the strategy involved. After you complete this, I would recommend that you create your success blueprint for 2026. And that's a tool we have. It's a resource for you that really walks through what are our organizational goals, what are our leadership goals, what are the ways that we can impact the customer experience, how will we measure our progress. If we get clear on all of this now, we are set up so much better for 2026. Now, there is so much more we can dive into here, but this is really just to get you thinking about these questions. These questions obviously are not meant to solve every customer experience issue, but they're there to help you think bigger. I work with a lot of customer experience leaders, both as a keynote speaker and when we're consulting and training. And one of the things I hear over and over again is, I wish I could do more. I wish they let me do more. I wish I could, break out of this role where I'm just reporting on things. And asking these bigger questions allows you to take the stage differently. So even if you feel painted into a corner right now, asking these questions allows you to say, you know what? Yes, these numbers are important. Here's why. And that's what leaders want to hear. They want to hear the why. This allows you to have the why. And that is so critical and important. And we've all been challenged in new ways. We really have. These last few years have not been for the faint of heart. We have faced a lot of unprecedented things. And that's why it can be easy to also feel overwhelmed and feel like, well, we can't plan anything anyway, so why do it? But the more you are prepared for this, the better you'll be prepared for that uncertainty. That's why we do this again and again, because yes, the world changes. Yes, customers change. We have to be prepared for that. So, excuse me. And let's not forget that our customers have gone through those same challenges, disruptions, and uncertainties. So the more that we can do this, the more we can serve them in their times of anxiety, their times of unknowns. So we have a really, really important role to play. Sometimes we don't sit up straight and say that. I want you to do that. I want you to sit up and say, I have an important role to play. And not only that, the outcomes that we're driving for our business, those are important. The outcomes we're driving for our customers are important. And guess what? Our employees, our teammates are going to win from this too. It is literally a win-win-win. So feel good about it, because it's easy right now to get into that negative space. So the question I want to leave you with is, where could you reimagine your experience to better serve customers today? And then I'd add, and tomorrow. And if you can answer that question and get inspired by it, that will drive you to new outcomes. That will drive you to new places. And that's what I want for you. So I think we're ready for questions. I'm going to go up and put up this slide about the upcoming events so that you can go ahead and register for the webinar if you want. But for now, Paige, let's talk about questions.
I'm back.
Excellent.
If you guys have questions, please pop them into the chat and I will gear them up for Jeannie. We have one already from Mindy. In addition to setting a timer for yourself, would polling a few colleagues help in developing this list?
Great question. And hi, Mindy. Good to see you here. So yes, great question. I have two minds about this. It really depends on where you are in your customer experience journey and where you sit in the organization. And the reason I say this is because what I have seen is sometimes people want to go to every leader and ask them about this, and they all have their own place that they're starting from. I have a brother who's a doctor, and he once said to me, he's a surgeon, and this always stuck with me because he said, every doctor you go to comes at things from their own modality. Meaning, if you go to a surgeon, they're going to recommend surgery. If you go to an allergist, they're going to think it's allergies. Because that's their mode. And the same thing can happen in organizations. So I would be cautious about getting too in the weeds with that. If you have colleagues that you trust that you've worked with, that cross-functional idea, absolutely, this can be very impactful. But one of the things I've found is that if you are a CX leader and you have been challenged, doing the timer exercise, sometimes from there, it leads to the question of, I'm looking at this. I wonder, and I'm complaining about this department not collaborating with me. I wonder if they felt the same way, like actually going to them and saying, what were the challenges you had this year, and seeing where that alignment is. That can be very effective. So it really does depend on your culture and who you're asking and kind of where you are on your journey. But absolutely. The other thing that I always recommend here too is if you do that list from the inside, it's always great to then see what are customers actually saying and where do those things line up. So once you have that list of challenges, if you have your customer feedback data, you can also look at that and say, okay, where is that Venn diagram? Because that will tell you where you could have the biggest impact as well in overcoming those challenges. One of the examples of this was I was working with a retailer. They had a ton of complaints about their returns, the return policy. Everything we looked at from the policy standpoint looked okay, but what we found was it was the process in the stores. So when I asked the CX manager to do this, one of the things that came up was that the managers of stores complained about returns, and that was annoying, right? And then when we married that to the customer data, we saw there was a bigger problem there, and we were able to really revamp the process to make it easier on everybody. So those types of things can be very helpful as well.
Okay, we got another one just in. Audrey Stone, Jeannie with lots of caps. So I think you probably know Audrey.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a recommendation on percent to focus on CX versus EX when thinking about an operations space?
Yes. Hello, Audrey. Good to see you. We know Audrey. And yeah, I think a percentage is a little tough. One of the things I like to think about, and this is why I like our success blueprint, because everything has to come back to impact. So if you are looking at what do your organizational goals say, and how can you help meet those? How can you help everybody in your organization win? And then what do your leaders care about? And if you can tackle those two things, there are times where it's more about the employee experience. It's more about, you know what, we have to fix this because, or we have to create a culture where we get more employees involved. We have to make sure that the employee journey, the career journey is better. Sometimes that bubbles up to the top because you're trying to achieve certain goals. And maybe one of the big organizational goals is being, what's the thing I've heard lately, like the employer of choice, right? I see that in a lot of goals. We're going to be an employer of choice, and we're going to attract top talent. I would look at that and think, how could we impact that through customer experience and employee experience? So that's how I think about it. I don't know if it's a percentage thing, as more of like a nuance thing, but there are ways that you can connect those dots. And when you look at operations, a lot of operational work is really about process and, process, people, technology, tools. And so all of that impacts the employee experience as well as the customer experience. So when we think about operations, we have to make sure that when we think about the people, process, systems, technology, and tools, we are thinking about what is that actually like for the employee and get them involved and make sure they are part of it. An example I've used before is when we don't include employees, when we are actually designing things for the customer, we often will skip over really, really important parts. So we need to include the employees. And by engaging those employees, you'll get then a stronger sense of culture around being a customer-centric organization. I have seen some of the most hardened leaders. They are invited to something where we're walking through a process, we're figuring out what's right for the customer, and they are already frustrated when they walk in the room because they feel like they've never been listened to. So why would they be listened to now? By engaging them in that process development, that creative approach, that innovation around the customer experience, you will see them come up with amazing ideas. And when they are involved like that, they feel better. They feel like they have more meaning in their work. They feel like they're being listened to, things that as humans, that's what we want. And so looking for opportunities to include employees where otherwise we might not, it's super critically important. And the example I always use for this is when a big box chain store rolled out a pay by phone and they forgot to tell the cashiers. They forgot to include the cashiers. So the first people who had it, the first customers, were pushing a big cart of goods out saying, I paid for it, and nobody had any idea what they were talking about. They didn't know how to check if that was legitimate. They didn't know anything. It caused great confusion and a lot of angst on both the customer and employee side. So anytime we make an operational change, we have to think through, how does that impact the employee experience, no matter what? Great question, Audrey.
Sandra Dinklage, we have a strategy for closing the loop with all our respondents. I'm curious if you have a strategy for converting passive respondents to promoters.
Good question. This is where the pressure comes in, right? That's what a lot of us are asked to do. Passive is interesting because it can mean different things in different places. What I tend to think about is, it's not that we necessarily want passive to be promoters. We want them to be engaged. And usually more engagement means higher loyalty, longer lifespan, more purchase, all of those things that we want as outcomes. So sometimes with passive, though, if it depends on the industry and the type of organization you are, because sometimes passive is just, hey, I bought something from you and it worked. Cool. That's a passive person. They aren't going to badmouth you. They aren't going to praise you. You delivered exactly what they wanted and what they expected. So that's kind of neutral. The part that I like is when we look at the indicators of the passive group. And what I mean by that is, there are certain businesses where passive actually means I'm kind of quiet quitting your company as a customer. I'm comparison shopping. I'm starting to look around. I am not as happy as I used to be. And so we have to look for, what are those indicators and how can we put more proactive ways to engage people when they're in that phase. I did some work with a fitness brand. We called them, they weren't passive. I'm going to blank on it now, but essentially there was a group that was rethinking their membership. And part of it was because they just weren't as engaged as they used to be. Maybe they were unhappy with a favorite instructor left, something like that. What we found was simply making a process around proactively reaching out to them when they became passive, when they dropped down from that promoter to passive. And I'm not talking about individually, I'm talking about as a group. We would actually come up with a program where they would get more proactive communication, special offers to come in for certain very specific events. And it helped re-engage them in the moment when they were slipping away. Because of course, detractors get our attention. Of course, we all people want us to call the detractors and all of that, all super important. But we have to think about these indicators as indicators. What are they trying to tell us if they're passive? What is it that we could do to pull a different lever to help them move into that? So I don't have like a universal strategy, but I will say that a lot of times I've seen organizations who simply ignore it. They're just like, yeah, whatever. And the other thing I'm seeing, which I'm finding very odd, is that I'm seeing some programs that are telling the customer, like, you're passive. Why are you passive? And customers don't think of themselves that way, and nor should they. So it's up to us to really read the tea leaves and look between the lines of what they're telling us for those indicators. Invite them in for innovation, for a special event, for something like that. Ask if you can do more to help them get to that next level. So that's what I would look for, is what is the gap and what are they really trying to tell us? If you can't figure out what they're trying to tell you, they're probably telling you that they're looking around. And so what can we do about that? That's how I think about it.
How often should this kind of reflection planning cycle be done? Quarterly, yearly, monthly? What do you think?
Yes. So I like to do this type of like deep dive. I think once a year is great, but I also I think every July we do something around this too, because I also like to check in July and say, how are we doing on these things? I love a good planner. I was one of those people who had like stickers on my calendar and all of that because it's so fun to look ahead and feel so organized. And then sometimes you do all of that and then you get to the end of the month and you're like, "Oh, that's right. I said I was going to run a 5K this month." Huh, because life gets in the way. So we have to make sure that we are continually checking them. Once you have your goal, once you have your blueprint, and once you have this vision of where you want to go, then I like to check in every week, every month and just say like, did we make any progress on this? Why or why not? What can I do? What do we need to adjust, delegate, automate, all of those things? Are there things we need to just cross off the list? Sometimes, yes. If we are, reorged or reprioritized or any of those things, that's a good time to revisit this too and think, is this in line with what our leadership wants, what our stakeholders want? I would also look at things like, okay, if we know that our fiscal year budget is due this day, we want to backtrack and figure out like key moments along the way. Maybe that is quarterly. So it really depends on your cycles. But I like to do this once a year for sure and go into the year feeling this. And then 6 months at least, check in again and ask these questions. What have we done so far? What have we done to improve the customer journey? What business outcomes have we delivered on? There are all sorts of ways to think about this, but if we don't take the time to reflect, then we are just going to get into that mode of, you know what? It's another plan that nobody executed on. So that's the importance of this. That's the beauty of it.
I love the planners and the
Oh
stickers.
my gosh. Well, I'm a paper planner girl.
Yeah, me too.
So I still have yeah, I know. See? And there's something about it.
We both have the pins. Do
Yes.
you guys remember these from back in the day? Oh, where am I? Now we color code. Like I liked them as a kid, but now I understand them.
Exactly. I know. Me too. I know. And people always make fun of me when they see me pull it out, but they always want one. I'm like,
right, because they're amazing.
They're amazing. So, and it feels so good to check something off with like a green check.
Yes. And if something needs attention, like a big red star.
Yep. Exactly.
So
exactly. So there are so many ways to do this, but I have found that it's important just to take the time. It really is. And when I work with leaders, or when one of my favorite examples of this was I was actually doing a keynote. This was a couple of years ago. And I was talking about this idea of the success blueprint and how to map that out. And one of the leaders came up to me afterwards and he said, "You know what? I have been writing down tactics every day of my life. I have never written down a real goal." And I was like, wow. But I think that applies to a lot of us because we aren't really taught this. And we're in this business, we're in this like world where it's just like, go, go, go. And you've got to, I write down things like, you know what, like, don't forget this bill is due or whatever. So those are important, but we need to take a step back and think about where do we want to go so we can use the right tactics to get there. And this work is hard. Prioritization is hard, especially in customer experience. So that's why we've developed all these tools, because we really have seen how challenging it can be and how when you're asked for OKRs or KPIs or any of those things for your organization, I have seen so many of those just be feedback metrics from customer experience leaders. And those are not outcomes. Those are metrics. So really reframing how we think about this and getting real about it and then feeling good about it. I say this all the time, but like this work is so meaningful and it gets like poo-pooed and shoved in a corner. And you know what? Nobody puts CX in a corner. So we have to make sure that we are recognizing this is meaningful work. We are impacting people's lives, their daily lives. And that is no small thing. No matter what industry you're in, no matter what business you're in, you are impacting someone's life. And we want to make sure that everything we're doing is meaningful and impacting someone positively. So that's how I want to go into 2026.
And maybe we'll have some fun Dirty Dancing CX memes.
Oh, amazing. Amazing.
Because I agree. Nobody puts CX in a corner. Because even if you do put CX in a corner, it's still happening. CX is still happening. There. So might as well prioritize it.
Right? Because you don't have to be intentional about CX and it's still there. So Yeah. Why not get intentional?
Absolutely.
So, well, this was fun. So
Yeah.
fun. And we hope you've signed up for the other ones because we're going to do more like deep dives into different aspects of this and really help you plan out that roadmap and everything. And just a reminder, our CXI membership, it's there for you. This is really because we built this because we heard from a lot of people who said, you've got all this great content. Like we have so much stuff out there already, but they were having trouble like figuring out, okay, what do I do first? And how do I take this? So that's exactly what we did. We said, if you want to develop your CX mission, step by step, here's how you do it. CX blueprint, there you go. See, everything. So, and then just reminders, Q&As, live events, all that fun stuff. So we encourage you to check that out. It's very video based too, which we found out is not as common as we thought it was. So there's not a lot of reading. It's a lot of video based, and you can search in there really well too. So lots of things. But you can do that. You can join us next week. You can kick the tires. You can check out all the curriculum with our 7-day free trial. We're really excited about this. This is the first time we've ever offered this. So you are part of the elite group. And once you're in there, we hope that you'll continue to join us, because once people are in there, they really like it. We've gotten a ton of great feedback. We have some great testimonials already. Yes. So we want to know about your experience too. So if you ever have questions or feedback, we are here for that too. That's how we've been building the curriculum. People have been saying like, what about this? And I'm like, that's a great idea. And then we build that curriculum. So that's what that's about. And I hope as well that you will consider pre-ordering the book, Experience is Everything by Jeannie Walters. That's important if you're looking up on certain sites. So, and then we'll be having more and more about that on our site and different events and everything else. So if you join the 7-day trial, if you join our newsletter, you'll get all of that as well. So we had a fun time. This is probably our last one for a while.
Yeah, because we've got, if you guys join the membership Q&A, like we said, the 7-day free trial runs into that. So you'll have access to that Q&A. You'll hear from us again and dive a bit deeper into like data and decisions for 2026. And then in November, we also have our like experienced investigators hosted webinar. So that one definitely will be diving into some great stuff. So this probably will be our last one. And then it's holidays.
And then it's holidays. Somehow we've made it to fourth quarter, folks.
I know it. It's crazy.
But we always love having you here with your questions, your great ideas, and your feedback. So thank you so much for joining us from all over the world. It's great to see you. And we hope you'll join us for our upcoming events and within our membership. See you around. But as I mentioned, our mission is to create fewer ruined days for customers. You being here with us today, that is helping us live that mission. So thank you. Thank you for all that you do. And let's go have a rockin', fun, optimistic, positive, proactive 2026. Woo. Let's go. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.